Hi, I'm Judy Finari, and this is, can you believe it, the 15th episode of The Chronic Rift? I don't believe it either. Well, comic books have moved beyond simple pleasure reading and story of adventure. Some of the stories aren't even meant for children. And a few weeks ago, we explored the new trend in comic books, the alternative press. Tonight, we have dealers of such books and others for our roundtable
This week's
discussion.
comic in review is President Bill, a graphic epic by William L. Brown. This collection of daily one-panel strips by Brown, which appears in various Washington, D.C. alternative newspapers such as the City Paper, extrapolates from, if I were president, I would. Now, 15 years later, comic shops are all over the place. There are small shops owned and run by individuals with some hired help, and there are chains such as Buddy Saunders' Lone Star Comics in Texas and the many Forbidden Planet stores both here and in Britain. With Judy and I to discuss the modern comic shop are, on my left, Steve Passarelli, the manager and owner of Action Comics in Manhattan. On the other side of Judy are Mark Marmer, the owner and manager of Omega Zone, also in Manhattan, and Peter Dolan, the manager of the Staten Island branch of Jim Hanley's Universe. A while back, I talked in my Comic Art Commentary segment about the new Todd McFarlane Spider-Man book, and the four covers, you know, and the way they hyped it up and the way it sold so much. And my question that I raised there was, how did the other team feel? How did that affect other publishers? Not so much Marvel, because Marvel is pretty much a giant, but Kitchen Sink claimed that they had to call back two of their books because of that.
How could they cover it? Why would they call it back?
Because they didn't afford it.
What happened was retailers were taking a chance on the Spider-Man, so they, rather than, I mean, it's...
Yeah, of course, I did the same thing.
Well, how do you feel about something like that? Something that's a four-cover, so it's in essence four new titles by Todd McFarlane.
Well, I mean, I'm in business, so you know, it's like I'm unfortunate. I understand what, I empathize with Kitchen Sink, and I empathize with anyone who's also trying to start a business, and it can't get the floor space, much in the same way that Coca-Cola takes up more shelf space than another. And that's what they did with with the new Coke, and then they come back with the classic Coke and the whole business. I mean, they got themselves much more floor space and shelf space.
First and second printings really make that much different to a collector. Now, with the Superman one, it's the same comic book, and it's slightly different cover.
Well, if it's the same cover, then I can understand. But if it's the same, what they did, like with Death in the Family, and they did with some G.I. Joe issues, is they printed second printing on it only. That was the only difference. What they did with Dark Knight, there was some...
Death in the Family, they had the different color covers.
That was in the trade paperback, wasn't it? And the Killing Jokes, they have the different...
Now, say the cover and everything's the same, and it's just a second printing. Does that make much difference to the collector?
Yes, it does. If it just says second printing, it still makes a difference. However, if I knew, for example, that, let's say, to take this particular book that we've been discussing, this 50th issue of the new Superman comic, if they printed up 50,000 copies and they sold them out, then a day later they went back to press and they printed 100,000 copies, and they didn't put the word second printing, I, as a collector, which I also am, would have no objection to taking a copy of that for my own collection, providing it looked exactly the same. Because there would be no way of knowing exactly.
Well, even so, the only difference, though, is a little thing in the indicia.
Well, but that's like saying,
well, you see, the thing
only
is
difference is, it's the little difference. That's the difference.
That's that's the difference. B, you have people who buy that as a reading copy and keep the first edition as pristine mint without ever having even opened the pages. We have people who buy multiple copies of comics on a regular basis for just that reason. I have someone who's buying 4 copies of the new Who's Who loose leaf format that they're coming out with, 2 of which he'll set up in different sorting sequences, and 2 he will keep in the original shrink wrap untouched. I mean, as a retailer, that warms the cockles of my heart and my bottom line.
Shrink wrap continually shrinking, so
how can you tell it's the original shrink wrap? That's how you know.
Well, we have nonsense. That's video. Don't talk about that.